The thoughts, opinions, and general overall shade thrown on High at 9 News are those of the individual speakers and not those of High at 9 News, its audience, or its advertisers. The statements made do not constitute medical, legal, or financial advice, and for advice tailored to your specific situation, please consult with a licensed professional. Welcome to the High at 9 News Hour, where you will hear from cannabis industry experts and professionals from around the country talk about important topics while shining light on global issues and discussing cannabis as it relates to politics, regulation and reform, data and technology, science, research and medicine, family and parenting, art, celebrities and entertainment, fitness, sports, mental health and wellness, and plant-based medicines and entheogenics. Together, we are building a stronger community, fighting the stigma and creating change. With your hosts, Jason Beck and Rico Lamitte, joined by special industry expert correspondents from around the country, and daily antics brought to you by Cannabis. Coming to you live every Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific Time and high noon on the East Coast. And thank you all for getting high at 9 with us. Yeah. Good morning, everybody. That's right. It is Wednesday, August 14th, and today is National Navajo Code Talkers Day. You hear that, Omar? Can you talk some Navajo code? Is it not there? Okay, oh well. It's also National Creamsicle Day, you guys. Everyone loves a creamsicle. Mm-hmm. And thank you all for joining us and getting high at 9 with us. It's also high noon on the East Coast. And please remember to like, share, and subscribe to us on all social media platforms. You can look up above or down below to see exactly where we live on the internet. And we are live every Monday through Friday on YouTube, Rumble, Twitch, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and on our very own website at www.highat9news.com. So thank you to all of us for joining us from whatever platform you are joining us from. Kicking it off today, Dale, you want to start this thing off with your story, or you want me to just roll into mine? Dale's muted. Dale, you're on mute. There we are. There you are, Dale. Dale, you want us to kick this off this morning, Dale? Yes. You're still on mute, Dale. You're still on mute. You got to turn the mute off. You got to turn off your mute, Dale. Oh. There we go. Right. Now we can hear you.
MIT challenge, what can I say?
It's all good. It's all good. We know. And Heather's probably out, you know what I'm saying, doing whatever Heather does. So we
pulling her hair
understand. Out. Yeah, exactly. All right, well, coming up first, that's right. It is the founder of Armada Law Practice, Mr. Dale Schafer, who at one point in time did some time for a cannabis crime. He's a convicted felon that didn't do no telling. And, of course, that's right, he's also show you how to defy gravity by pissing up a rope. That's right. Here it is none other than attorney Mr. Dale Schafer.
Good morning, everybody. My story is the continuation of labor moving forward in the cannabis space. It comes out of Ohio. Mm-hmm. It involves a hospital worker in a hospital, and they called for a random drug test, and he pissed positive for cannabis metabolites. And they suspended him. He can go to a drug class and, promise not to do it again and all that sort of stuff. Well, the union, the Service Employees International Union, they demanded arbitration under their collective bargaining agreement. And the case went to arbitration. The arbitrator found a couple of things. Number one, he found that the collective bargaining agreement called for a reasonable suspicion before you ask for a drug test, not random drug testing. And they also pointed out that the collective bargaining agreement talks about possessing or using or being under the influence of a whole host of substances, including alcohol and marijuana, while you're on the premises. So it turns out that this judge wasn't as dumb as each party thought he was, because this judge pointed out, or the arbitrator pointed out, that metabolites don't mean anything. And this is something we've dealt with numerous times when it comes to charges of driving under the influence, because metabolites stay in the system for as much as 30 days. So if you've got metabolites from cannabis, and typically they're THC metabolites that are in the system. You could have smoked weed the night before or 30 days before. Okay? And in no way proves that you were under the influence or that you had used on the premises. And the randomness, the reasonable suspicion, the hospital brought forth no evidence in this arbitration to show that there was some kind of a reasonable suspicion that this person had used or was under the influence on their premises. So the arbitration panel, or the arbitrator, said, nah, give the guy his job back, wipe out the suspension, make him whole, because it was the hospital that screwed this up. Well, the hospital went to federal court. And one of the things that we've talked about in the past is that when you forum shop, the federal courts in weed generally turn out to be positive for the people opposing weed. Well, in this case, it didn't turn out that way. The hospital filed a suit, and the union countersued in the federal court, and they both filed for what we call summary judgment, which means there's no contested issue of material fact in this case. So the judge had to turn it on the table. Okay. And so what the judge looked at was that the arbitrators, they typically defer to them. This collective bargaining agreement called for arbitration for disputes. And unless the arbitrator is just being fraudulent or dishonest or is not in any way connecting the decision to the collective bargaining agreement, the federal courts generally go with it. And the court pointed out that there was nothing in this case that indicated that the judge wasn't tying, or the arbitrator wasn't tying this decision to the collective bargaining agreement, and that there was no reasonable suspicion to test him, and that the collective bargaining agreement did not allow random testing. You had to have some reasonable suspicion. These are what we call for-cause testing in the employment setting. And that metabolites don't mean anything. They don't tell you if someone's under the influence, if they had just used. If you were testing for THC levels, that might have a different persuasive factor for the judge. But all they brought forward was metabolites. And it made me think that whoever was trying this case did not understand cannabis, didn't understand the toxics or the intoxicating effects, how the liver detoxifies or anything like that. So I thought that whoever was representing this hospital did not do a very good job of trying to put forth their position. And what the federal judge ultimately said was that the union's going to win here because the arbitrator stayed within the limits of his authority, and that the hospital didn't prove its case. This is one more step towards certifying for workers the right to use substances off the job, especially if they're legal substances. Now, Ohio had just recently passed cannabis legalization, and so one of the arguments the hospital made was that the arbitrator, tied that new law to this decision, and the court said no. But it is good to see that even the federal courts are moving towards some common sense around cannabis. The guy that was in trouble here was called a porter. If you ever been in the hospital, they basically push your gurneys around. Okay? And, pushing a gurney makes you wonder, why are you drug testing somebody who's pushing a gurney? It's probably a little more taxing job and more interactive with patients than being a janitor, but not a whole lot more. So I think this is a positive step for the employment situation around cannabis, and especially off-duty cannabis use. I'm hoping that if we do this again, somebody comes in with some proof, if you will, that this person might have been under the influence and might have been using on the job, because this just was devoid of any evidence to prove that. So it's a positive step for employment rights. I'm going to throw it back to you guys. What do you think about this decision?
Did the unions come out with any comment on this as far as their position on this, Dale?
I haven't seen one yet. No.
I'd be really
interested. It wasn't part of the workup.
I would be really interested to see what the union had to say about this verdict.
Well, and one of the things we've talked about many times, Jason, is that someone who's an experienced cannabis user, for most low-level activities, there really is no reason to question their ability to do it. Okay. I mean, if you're the surgeon or if you're the airline pilot or things like that, you might want to just be sure the person isn't drunk or just smoked a blunt or was shooting coke in the hallway or something like that, because these are very high-functioning jobs. But for the average person, if you smoke a joint the night before and you show up for work the next day, what's different from that than having a beer or a shot of scotch the night before and coming to work? And that's a little more common sense and realistic to the dangers that this substance might bring to other people you're taking care of, or might put in a position of harm.
You have any thoughts on this, Jenny? I know you deal with a lot of employment things.
I do a lot of firing people. Guess somebody's got to do it, right? You know what? This is the first time that the union has been helpful. I've been part of unions, and I'm not a big fan of unionization in instances where people aren't going to die. But I think when we're talking about safety in this sense, then yeah, the union is probably needed. But I think that it's nice that the union steward was actually helpful this time, because usually they just go into meetings and look completely lost. So this is nice.
Fair. Interesting. I wonder, Dale, so we've been covering a story and following along this lawsuit in regards with some New Jersey law enforcement officials who are taken off duty because of their off-duty use of cannabis, and they are currently suing. And we covered this follow-up story yesterday. I wonder if this case is going to have some types of repercussions that case is going to have to look at.
Well, these are district court decisions, and they're not as persuasive as an appellate court or a Supreme Court decision. But it's just more evidence that I think common sense is coming to the cannabis space, as opposed to knee-jerk reactions that, oh, this is illegal, we're just not going to even discuss it. Moving beyond that and allowing people to come forward with evidence. If you're saying that I'm a bad person because I smoked weed the night before, then prove it, and don't bring your dog and pony show in. Bring evidence, bring experts, something.
Yeah.
And the cops, the same thing. I've represented cops before, and I find them to be generally decent people. They're trying to do the right thing here. And, if you can find a way to relax from being a cop by smoking a joint the night before you go to work, I don't see how that should affect your next day's performance. And those of us who have been experienced with cannabis know that what you do the night before with cannabis very rarely affects you the following morning. So it's common sense, I would hope. And as I recall, the cop thing had to do with being able to have a gun and the violation of the federal law around guns and Schedule I drugs. So I don't know if we're going to fix that, but common sense needs to come into these cases.
I agree with you on that. There's, what they say, Dale, if common sense was so common, ...
Well, but if humans were angels, we wouldn't need government either.
Oh man!
There's another
saying. There's another saying, Dale, that goes along with that. It's if tits and ass were dick and balls, then my mother would be my father.
Yeah. Well, it depends on where you live. That might be a funny knee slapping story.
That's not usually how it.
That's not how it goes, Jenny?
No, it's not.
Oh, how does it go then, Jenny?
I don't remember, but it's not tits and ass and dick and balls. It was a little less vulgar than that. It'd be my aunt, be my uncle.
I don't buy that.
Yeah. If my aunt had balls, she'd be my uncle, is how it goes.
No, I've only heard the vulgar version, just like how I said it.
That's gross.
You're wrong.
Congratulations.
That's all right. We're going to go to a commercial, though, and we're going to be right back.
The Network Show is coming back to LA September 18th and 19th.
I just ordered the summertime strawberry salad when added steak on top here at Anna's. Make sure you do the same thing too next time you're in downtown Long Beach. Come on down and check out Anna's joint on the 400 block of Pine Street. They have amazing selection of beers, foods, and when you come down here to Anna's, you can even challenge me to a game of shuffleboard if you want to lose. Did you get that? So, next time you're in downtown Long Beach on Pine Avenue, make sure you stop by Anna's Joint on the 400 block. Not only do they have Anna's Joint, this restaurant and bar, but they also have the amazing deli next door. And then next door to that, they have a very exotic flower shop. You may want to stop by and say hi.
Ah, yes, and we are back, you guys. I'm going to roll into my story, and make sure you check out Anna's next time you're down here in downtown Long Beach. But let me tell you something, man. We're going to go out to Florida, you guys, because, yeah, that's right. DeSantis paints Trulieve Cannabis Company as a Canadian amid adult use marijuana spat, you guys. That's, oh boy. That's right, Governor Ron DeSantis' words. The campaign for Florida's adult use marijuana ballot measure is being driven, in quotes, by one company from Canada. He says, how ridiculous is this, that we would let our Constitution basically be rent-seeking for some Canadian marijuana company, you guys. DeSantis said during a breakfast speech last month at the Republican National Convention, and also says in a quote, I mean, give me a break. But the company he's talking about is Trulieve, the largest medical marijuana operator in Florida, and its top officials contest that description, you guys. In a quote, the fact of the matter is that Trulieve is Florida born. That's right, it was apparently started on a kitchen table. Our products are Florida grown, and we are headquartered in Florida with most of our nearly 4,000 employees living here as well, said CEO Kim Rivers in a statement. She went on and says, I am a Florida native, born and raised here, and this is my home. And I might add that Florida law requires us and all MTCs, medical marijuana treatment centers, to be Florida-based. So any statement to the contrary are completely false. In 2018, the company acquired a mining business in Canada through a process known as a reverse takeover, with the merged company called Trulieve Cannabis Corp. Doing this allowed the company to publicly trade on a Canadian stock exchange while avoiding the stock market restrictions marijuana companies face in the United States, where their product is federally prohibited. As Trulieve spokesperson Steve Vancour put in an email, in a quote, the only connection to Canada is a holding company that was formed so that stocks can be publicly traded. Trulieve's Cannabis Corp is not the licensee, nor has it. The holding company made a single donation to the Smart and Safe Florida campaign. The vast majority of funds that have gone to Smart and Safe Florida, the group leading the pro-amendment campaign, came from Florida's Trulieve Incorporated. It's given around $60 million, you guys. The proposed Amendment 3, if it gets at least 60% of the vote in 2024 general election, would allow non-medical marijuana possession of up to 3 ounces with no more than 5 grams in concentrated form for those who are 21 years of age and up. Smart and Safe Florida and Vote No on 3, the campaign against the amendment, didn't respond to requests for comments, nor did representatives of Governor Ron DeSantis. Also, in response to the criticism, some, like Morgan & Morgan law firm founder John Morgan, have contrasted it with how DeSantis himself has promoted his actions in getting pharmaceutical products from Canada, you guys. And we have a tweet up here for you guys to view. Morgan, who has jokingly referred to himself, we gotta hit play on that, Millie.
I had to cue the tweet first.
Oh, got it. Okay, there we go. We got the tweet up for you guys so you guys can check it out. But Morgan, who has jokingly referred to himself as the state's pot daddy, led and poured money into the 2 ballot question campaigns to legalize medical pot in Florida, the second of which was successful. DeSantis has been attacking Trulieve for being from Canada, wrote Morgan, who has voiced radio advertisements in support of Amendment 3 in a social media post, and in quote says, it's not true, of course. Trulieve is by law a Florida-based company, but now he is crowing about how hard he is working to bring Canada pharmaceuticals to Florida. You just can't make this stuff up.
Asked if it's accurate to call Trulieve a Canadian company, University of Florida finance professor Jay Ritter said, I can see both yes and no being correct answers. In a quote says, I'd be inclined to call it a U.S. company that is traded in Canada, Ritter said during an interview with the USA Today news network. And Florida, and in a quote, my view on this amendment is people ought to be voting for or against it based upon their opinion about legalization of marijuana. And the fact that this company happens to be traded in Canada is pretty irrelevant for that decision, he says, you guys. Well, I kind of agree with that, but I have a couple other thoughts on this, and I can't wait to hear what you guys have to say about this. Governor Ron DeSantis saying no to Canadian weed. What do y'all have to say about this?
Sounds like he followed the money.
Right?
Rico's not here to say it. I guess I will. I mean, I don't care that Kim Rivers grew up in Florida. You know my opinions on her, and I'll keep them to myself for the day and be a nice girl. But that's cool. I grew up in Georgia. My company's not a Georgia-owned company. It's a California-owned company. If you have Canadian investors and that's how you presented the stock, you know, whatever. I don't care if they put money into the campaign. Are they putting money into the company? Or are they pulling money from the company?
Mm-hmm. Well, you know, one other thought. I would bear to agree with Governor DeSantis on this and referring to them as a Canadian company, because I believe once they do a reverse merger and they're tracking all their revenues for the Canadian Stock Exchange, those revenues, even though the sales are happening in the U.S., contribute to Canada's GDP as opposed to the U.S.'s GDP. Isn't that correct, Dale? Once you do one of these reverse mergers?
I'm not an economist in terms of GDP calculation, but it really makes sense that if the holding company, which is based in Canada and which raises funds on the international markets, because you can't raise funds in the United States because the SEC will not allow it. And don't doubt for a second that this company, if it could raise funds in the U.S., it would be doing that. Mm-hmm. If it was allowed to trade on the OTC penny stock market, it would be doing that. So I think that is just a specious attack. I am really wondering why all these Florida Republicans are opposing cannabis legalization. We have Matt Gaetz, we have Ron DeSantis, we have somebody's, benevolent dictator who is saying, I don't know if it's good or bad for Florida, I don't know. Why are they not in support of something that's supported by 80% of the American population? That's an easy one. It's an easy issue.
Omar, maybe it's a bad bill. Maybe they don't like the fundamentals of how the bill would work. That's an easy reason to be against it. You can still support medical cannabis and still vote no on Amendment 3.
Well, do they have a better bill that they're proposing that would accomplish the same goals, or are they not?
I mean,
that's like reschedule or deschedule. Do we do something that's not good instead of, because we don't have another option, or do we wait and get a better option on the table before we move forward?
Yeah, that's what we did.
It's easier to do it right the first time than correct, which we've seen in other markets. So I don't know.
I know, but if they're not proposing a better alternative, then you can't really buy the argument that they think it's not a good bill.
I think I would buy it because I would vote no on Amendment 3, even though that I support adult use, because I think it's a shit bill.
Right, because you would be supporting a better alternative.
Well, the better alternative is to keep it the way that it is and come up with something better later. There doesn't necessarily need to be an alternative right this moment. I mean, it wouldn't even be on the ballot. So what's the point in harping about an alternative?
Well, do you think that this measure is designed to help a specific company and was crafted by their lobbyists? Okay,
yes.
Well, that's a good critique. Why don't we hear that critique instead?
That is the critique. That's one of the reasons that I wouldn't vote for it, because I believe that this is totally crafted by Trulieve to enrich and enshrine Trulieve, and the fact of all of that is that all of those revenues, Omar, as I previously stated, would be going to Canada's GDP and not the U.S.'s GDP because of that reverse merger, because they are a Canadian company, in my opinion.
Oh, but it's all politics. And, we are getting into that period where all we hear is mud. Mm-hmm. And this just sounds like mudslinging. I mean, so a Canadian pot company's bad, okay?
Oh, come on,
that's not a good
Dale.
Reason to vote against this.
Come on, Dale. You don't like going to the monster truck rally and watching all the mud fly?
Yeah. Well, but what I don't like,
Come on, what kind of question
what I
is that?
don't like is you gotta smoke weed for the nausea you get from watching these goddamn politicians throw mud everywhere. And I think you're right. Let's point to the issues. What is the problem you have? Let's bring it out and stop talking about, somebody's mother wears combat boots, or this is from Canada, or just nonsensical
Your
shit
mom
like
wears
that. I
combat
want
boots.
policies. I want to see, what do you actually have to say? What's your problem with this? What's your alternative? Because I was taught, if you point out a problem and don't bring a solution forward, you're just fucking whining. Stop whining. Let's talk about the issues here.
I think Governor DeSantis' solution to this is the fact that he's siding with all the hemp producers out there with all their products and is allowing the bill that was going to really regulate them to just basically die in the legislature.
Well, and that's the money trail, okay? They've got the money. They don't have all these restrictions that we have. I mean, hell, they can still sneak, Delta-8 into these products. There's all kinds of freedom they have that we don't have. And so, yeah, they're an industry, and they're going to scream and yell whenever they try to bring these industries together. But that just obfuscates the real issues here. Cannabis has been strangled for decades here. We've been fighting to try to just get our head above water. And every time you do, somebody comes and says, oh, you're a Canadian cannabis. So fuck you. What has that got to do with the issues here?
Well, first, I can tell you one of the main issues with it is that Canadian companies produce mids. I think that's a big... Just saying.
That's not the issue. That's not the biggest issue. I have the Canadian market. I would probably look at more of their false inflation of their stock prices.
Oh,
it caused everything to bottom out in 2016, 17, and 18. I would look at the fact that they're doing things like this Trulieve play where they are traditionally. I mean, I think that's an issue. This is an American company. This is an American industry, and we're allowing the money to be funneled out into a foreign entity. And they might be our friendly neighbor to the north, but that doesn't fucking help us very much, especially where our economy is at the moment.
I wouldn't consider them a friendly neighbor, but that's cool.
Did it in air quotes. I have some Canadian friends.
Okay.
Where's the discussions about taking away all the handcuffs and the hog ties and everything this industry has on it and opening up so we can be a real legitimate business instead of fighting about nonsensical shit around the edges? Bottom line here is that cannabis should never have been put where it is. Keeping it where it is just absolutely scientifically stupid. Let's talk about that instead of, oh, it's a Canadian company. There's some things to talk about there, but the real heart of this is that those of us who think cannabis is better than alcohol are just being throttled. Some of us throwing our ass in prison for daring to speak up and say the whole policy is full of shit. It has no scientific basis to it. It's political. It's based way back in these Protestant right-wing, I don't want anybody to touch alcohol types of nonsense stuff from the end of the 1800s, the early 1900s, and we still can't get through this because their mama said smoking weed's bad. So now we're going to fight about what?
You know what I wonder? You know what I wonder, since this issue has been brought up, if this is gonna dovetail into some type of a lawsuit if it does pass, and them say that it was foreign election interference in a U.S. election because of money from a Canadian company.
Yeah, the full employment, a lawyer's full employment act, right, Omar? Everything violates the Constitution now. Jeez.
Absolutely.
Let's get the Commerce Clause up here, and let's talk about that and why the Commerce Clause has subsumed all of our Bill of Rights and allow the federal government to do whatever they want to do, and it has a substantial impact on commerce, so therefore I can do whatever I want to do. That's a nonsensical place we found ourselves.
Fair enough. All right, well, we're going to keep this train rolling. We are going to roll right in to Miss Jenny Beth Dills. She is the Southern belle that loves to raise hell. That's right. That's right. She's the founder of Justice Served, a 501c3 all about criminal justice reform, and also the founder of Kind Cannabis that helps social equity applicants stray away from predatory lenders. That's right. Is none other than Miss Jenny Beth Dills.
And I got to help you stray away from the center of the desk so I can see the teleprompter.
Oh, there you go. There we go.
Thank you. Okay, all right. This one's a weird one. Jason picked my story today. It does not follow my normal social equity, justice reform policy track. But hey, here we go. Because Green Thumb ended a partnership years ago with an Ohio man now facing SA attempted murder charges. We can't say all of this stuff. We get monetized issues. Northeast Ohio business owner Robert Bobby T. George, 43, turned himself into Cuyahoga County authorities August 13 after being charged with 9 felony offenses, including attempted unaliving someone and sexual assault. The charges, also including 4 counts of kidnapping, felonious assault, and 2 counts of strangulation, were filed August 9th, according to Cleveland Municipal Court records. The warrant for George's arrest was issued that day, but was withdrawn on August 13th, according to the court records. That's odd. Why would they withdraw that? George owns or is involved in several eateries and local businesses, including Town Hall, Reball, Barley House, Green Goat Cafe, and others, 19 News reported. Some Ohioans have also incorrectly speculated that George owns and or operates 5 licensed Rise cannabis dispensaries as a franchisee, including 2 store locations in Lakewood and 1 each in Cleveland, Toledo, and Lorain. Rise Dispensaries is a nationwide cannabis retail banner owned by Chicago-based multi-state operator Green Thumb Industries, or GTI, one of the largest publicly traded cannabis companies in the world. The speculation in Ohio comes 6 years after George co-applied for Ohio medical cannabis licenses with Green Thumb in 2018 under the GTI Ohio LLC business name. Green Thumb even referred to George as a GTI Ohio partner in 2018 after GTI Ohio won 5 of the original 56 medical cannabis dispensary licenses in the state. However, George never had operational involvement in Rise Dispensary or Green Thumb, and the company ended the partnership, including George's equity interest in GTI Ohio years ago, according to a Green Thumb statement provided to Cannabis Business Times. We're horrified by the allegations involving Bobby George and stand by our past decision to disassociate him from our business, according to the company statement provided by Vice President of Communications Shannon Weaver. According to SEC filings, a Green Thumb Industries subsidiary entered into a membership interest purchase agreement with George Management Ltd., registered by George, in April 2019 to acquire 59% of the 60% interest that George Management held in the Ohio retail and processing license. On June 7, 2019, Green Thumb completed the acquisition of George's management non-controlling interest in GTI Ohio LLC through the issuance of subordinate voting shares that values nearly $14 million and $5.15 million in cash, $1.65 million of which was contributed by George Management during 2019 as part of a capital call. George, a Lakewood, Ohio resident, is now being held by Cuyahoga County authorities after a Cleveland criminal court judge set his bond at $200,000 and ordered him to turn in his passport during an August 13th hearing. The 9 felony charges George faces includes offense dates ranging from November 1st, 2023 to July 27th, 2024. The attempted murder charge from June 8th, 2024 correlates with 1 count of kidnapping and 1 count of strangulation. Specifically, George is accused of strangling a woman, throwing her around their shared residence, and shoving a towel down her throat, according to an arrest warrant, Fox 8 News reported. George's criminal defense attorney, Kevin Spellacy, denied all charges on August 13th. I actually don't want to hear how this guy got. They're denying his charges. He has no prior felony history, and I think the most important part of the story to discuss is that it seems like Green Thumb is doing a little PR push to make sure that they're not associated with this guy who seems like a pretty awful human being. So sorry if this story was triggering for anybody. It was definitely triggering for me, and I hope this guy gets what's coming to him.
Green Thumb Industries separating themselves from this guy. Interesting, you guys. And Ohio is just the latest rage. I mean, what do you think about this, Dale or Omar? I'd like to hear some legal thoughts in regards with this.
Well, my experience with the cannabis industry going way back, decades now, is that it was populated before legality by a lot of males who were not agreeable. And you look at the psychological standpoint, they were willing to break rules and things like that. So I'm sure Omar's had some experience with people that were unsavory in the industry, and we'd all like to get them out. I don't have any sympathy for any man who puts his hands on women offensively.
Yep. I agree with that.
Has sex with them without consent or tries to kill somebody unless it's defending yourself. And I agree they need to distance themselves from this guy. And I agree with Jenny Beth. I've got daughters, man. You do this to my children, and you better hope the criminal justice system takes care of you. Because I met a few people in prison might want to have a little chat with you afterwards.
Right.
I'm not a criminal defense attorney. I'd like to hear what Omar has to say about
Omar
this.
is.
Well, I've been a freedom defense attorney for more than 25 years, but I would never represent somebody like that. And I devoted myself to nonviolent offenders. Can you hear me?
Yeah. We hear you perfect.
Okay. And so, I just could not be zealous for somebody who is accused of doing something like that and probably engaged in some version of that. Who knows where the truth lies, but it's not for me to spend my days figuring out how to get somebody off like that. Mm-hmm. And so I have chosen to put my talents in a different direction. But to me, this is a perfect example of the Streisand effect. Right? Like this guy gets arrested. Why is the company trying to distance itself from him? If this all happened years ago, why are they drawing attention to their prior association with this dirtbag? It might have been a smarter PR play to not even bring it up, because now we're all talking about it in relation to Green Thumb. And, if this is the kind of person that they choose to do business with in the past, I wouldn't be surprised if their judgment is a little bit suspect.
Skewed.
And so, excellent example of the Streisand effect. They should have just kept quiet. If people started asking questions, of course, at that point you said, we disassociated from this guy years ago. We have nothing to do with him. We want nothing to do with anybody like this. That would have been, I think, the more wise move. But, it's a way to, if you're just seeking publicity and you think any publicity is better than no publicity, you end up doing things like what happened here.
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
This is bad PR. Yeah. Nobody likes women to be treated like this. And if it's associated with your business, then, I would advise people to run. Because this is the depraved ethos of your company if they have anything to do with people like this.
You'd be surprised how many people don't actually give a fuck, especially in this industry, ironically. I'm a domestic violence survivor. That's why I didn't want to read this story. And when I got through it, I should have read it first and said no. But, I know women who have also gone through these things, and you'd be surprised how many people are still willing to do business with someone, how many people are still willing to be their friend, how many people don't care unless it affects them. So I think it's interesting, and we just need to do better as an industry of vetting the people that we allow to participate.
Well, I hear you, Jenny Beth, and I know that Omar feels this way, is that when we get a whiff of things like this in a business, I'm out of here. And if you support people like this, I don't support you. And the industry needs to call them out as much as you can. It's like the stories of, guys making women trim with their tops off because they can walk around and just, stupid shit like that. No, people like that need to go. This is a business. We have morals, we have ethics. And if you don't have things like that, then I'm sorry, I don't support you. And I'm not going to speak nice about you. I won't direct people to you, refer them to you. I'll tell them you support people who treat women like this. And the answer is no, you don't belong in our industry. Sorry.
Fair enough. I mean, this reminds me of a similar story I think we had like around the start of legalization with the owners of Select back in the day. This is reminding me of that story. But nonetheless, we're not going to harp on that. We're going to roll right into our next commercial, and we're going to be right back.
The Control Tower from Highly Educated has perfected the dab. Utilizing the concept of thin film evaporation, you can waste none of it and taste all of it. The micro texture of the SE pillar increases nucleation at elevated temperatures. And with the tower propelling at 2,600 RPMs, it's certainly the most efficient dab experience to date. The Control Tower from Highly Educated.
Yes. Make sure, whatever you're doing, make sure you hit that like button. I know we'll appreciate it. You'll appreciate it. And YouTube will appreciate it. Yes, that's right. That's right. Also, make sure you subscribe to the channel if you've not subscribed already. And all of the articles that we cover on today's show, you can read directly on our website at www.highat9news.com.
I'm Jason Beck, and this is Smoky Vanilla. And if you want to feel as good as I look, then you need to get a stretch and smoke with Smoky Vanilla.
Hi, I'm Smoky Vanilla. I have my bachelor's degree in kinesiology, and I'm a sports massage therapist and stretch coach. I focus mostly on individuals that are in sport with chronic pain or injury. I love to intuitively create and customize a session based on the individual that I'm working with. We'll go over a few postural assessments, work together to create a wellness journey based on the health history, past injuries, or anything still affecting you today. And we'll get you back on your feet right away with less pain.
We're about to stretch, and then we're gonna smoke, because we're gonna get on our stretch and smoke. If you want to feel as good as I look, then you need to come on down and get a stretch and smoke with none other than Smoky Vanilla.
Yes, and we are back, you guys. Coming up next, that's right, it is, Rico's not here yet, right? All right, we're waiting on Rico to show up. He's having a little thing today. He should be here shortly, but we're gonna roll right in to attorney at law, Mr. Omar Figueroa. Coming back, that's right, he's the founder of the law offices of Omar Figueroa, who is a criminal justice firm that is all about righting the wrongs that are presented because of the unjust war on drugs. That's right. Here to switch it up is none other than Mr. Omar Figueroa.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Jason.
There we go.
Also,
we got your
I wanna
video fixed. Look at
Yes.
that. Sweet. We can see you now.
In all my glory.
Love it.
Happy Hump Day, everyone. My story is from Fox 19 in Cincinnati, Ohio, by Brady Williams. The headline is Ohio marijuana sales exceeding expectations, high sales from other states. Recreational marijuana sales in Ohio have been legal for a week and business is booming. Sales in Ohio and the greater Cincinnati area are rivaling some of the top cannabis markets in the country. It's also attracting customers from nearby states where recreational marijuana isn't legal. We're seeing numbers at dispensaries that rival numbers in established markets like Illinois that have been up and running for years. Jason Erkes of Cresco Labs said, "We're seeing that in the first week in Ohio." Cresco Labs owns Sunnyside Dispensary in Cincinnati. Erkes said the demand has been high from Ohioans and out-of-staters. "We're seeing a lot of out-of-state licenses when people are checking in," Erkes said. "A lot of out-of-state license plates in the parking lot. We know that people want access to regulated lab-tested products, and they don't have access to that in those states. Anyone from Indiana or Kentucky, where marijuana sales are prohibited, can buy cannabis in Ohio if they're old enough. But bringing it across state lines is illegal because marijuana is illegal at the federal level. Some people are willing to take that risk to get safe products," Erkes said. "Once they walk out of the dispensary, where they consume it is really on them." Erkes said he couldn't give a specific number or percentage on out-of-state sales and customers, but he's seen enough to know there's a market in those states. "Those states are leaving a lot of tax revenue on the table," Erkes said. "Not all of Ohio's neighbors have prohibited recreational marijuana sales. Michigan legalized recreational marijuana in 2018, and prices are considerably lower there. Every state has a different set of structures and rules," Erkes said. "Michigan is not a limited license state, which means the state is really saturated with stores and they're competing against each other, driving prices down, and a lot of businesses are failing. While prices are higher and consumers are spending more, Erkes believes Ohio's approach is better for the long term. By allowing it to ramp up with a number of stores and building on that, it's really a smart way to make sure there's stability and sustainability in the cannabis program," Erkes said. Fox 19 reached out to Kentucky State Police to ask how they would approach the interstate transport of cannabis from Ohio to Kentucky. "We asked whether people should expect more patrols near bridges or should use increased caution during traffic stops, but KSP hadn't replied at the time this article was published." The headline is Ohio marijuana sales exceeding expectations, high sales from other states. You know, my take is it's exceeding the expectations of prohibitionists, but longtime Ohio residents know that so many Ohioans really want to get high in Ohio that it's really not a surprise. And what is interesting is that so many people from nearby states like ultra-prohibitionist Indiana and Kentucky are coming to Ohio. And I do expect that there's going to be sting operations, and that this criminal enforcement of absurd cannabis laws will lead to further reform in states like Indiana and Kentucky. And so it's going to have a long-term salutary effect. But I think now in the Midwest, it's clear, now that Ohio has gone legal and it's a booming business and they have this limited market where they don't allow competition, and that ultimately hurts the consumers. It's interesting to see how that's going to end up playing out. It seems like Ohio really is a state like Florida where the fix is in. This is Omar Figueroa, lawyer, publisher, and Ganjier instructor, reporting from Sonoma County, California, the traditional territory of the Pomo, Miwok, and Wapo nations, for High at 9, high noon Eastern.
Oh, man. Omar, great to have you back, buddy. This is so Ohio. Here's my big question with Ohio, because you brought up Kentucky, right, Omar, in this story?
Yep.
Okay. And if you remember a while ago, Governor Beshears said that patients can travel to other states to purchase weed and bring it back. But yet you have the Kentucky State Troopers coming out against that, and they're the ones that actually do this type of enforcement, and basically saying, hey, if you travel into our state with weed and we're going to bust you for it. Where does the line in the sand really draw?
Well, I think that people should remember the laws don't travel with you. And if you're going to break the cannabis possession law, only break one law at a time. You don't need to be speeding. You don't need to be committing other violations of the law if you're going to be transporting illegal cannabis. Expired tags, maybe not having, there's all sorts of like petty vehicle violations that the cops will seize on. Like, your license plate is not fully visible because the license plate.
Those little plates, those little plates that cover them.
That's right.
Yeah.
So they have all sorts of wacky reasons, like, the tire flaps don't fully cover the tires, the mud flaps don't fully cover the tires. They have all sorts of wacky things. So make sure your vehicle, if you're going to be doing this kind of activity, is completely compliant, and that you have not only a radar detector, but you're following the speed limit. Because I've had so many cases where my client is going 1 mile over the speed limit, and that's enough to get pulled over. That's all it takes. 1 mile over the speed limit.
Make sure you don't have that radar detector in one of the states that doesn't allow that one either.
Oh, yeah. That's
Florida, I'm looking at you.
Now,
one of the frustrating things I keep seeing is that inside law enforcement policymakers are still a lot of prohibitionists. Okay, in some of these states you can see law enforcement's heavy with the prohibitionists, and we like to talk about the tax dollars that get raised in cannabis-friendly states. But what we don't ever get a look at is how much does law enforcement spend in enforcing these ridiculous cannabis laws? Because I think if people could see how much they were spending to do this, when they're not looking at fentanyl as hard, I mean, why are they doing this? Okay, because there are a lot of criminal problems out there, and criminal problems with drugs. Meth and fentanyl are killing this country right now. And so we're going to go set the state line, look for someone with, tinted windshield. We're going to pull them over, have the dog go around, search. We got weed now. Okay, how much did that cost you? And what did you actually accomplish when, people are dying every day from overdoses of fentanyl? Lives are being ruined because of methamphetamine. And we still got people want to go out and make this big headline splash. I'm going to fight weed. Stop it. American people want weed. People are smoking weed over alcohol more and more. There's a paradigm shift here. I'd like to see public education about the numbers it costs to enforce these ridiculous goddamn marijuana laws. I'd like to see that.
Fair enough.
I mean, the story's about like how much they're exceeding the sales, right? And so I think that's interesting because I don't think they're exceeding it by volume. I think they're exceeding it by dollar amount. And we've read story after story about these really, really inflated prices, especially when you're contrasting the medicinal prices and the adult use prices in Ohio, and the fact that you can only buy a tenth. If I've got to buy a teeny tiny little piss ass amount and I've got to pay out my butt for it, and I probably got to buy a few of them to get a blunt that's got 3.5 in it.
Up to 25.
Then, yeah, I'm probably spending more than I should be. So I think once again, cannabis regulations and prohibition have made prices seem higher than they actually are.
That's a fair point. Now I have a question, because I'm really confused by this whole thing, because with the governor of Kentucky saying that med card patients should go out of state and pick up their cannabis and bring it back. Could that be possibly used as an actual defense in court?
Entrapment?
Yeah, I mean, because the governor, who is the head of the state, has basically told the citizens that, hey, you can do this. So couldn't they use those statements as a defense in court if they are busted for coming across the state line with a marked bag of cannabis?
Yeah, it would be a total stretch, but there is a defense known as reliance on official authority, also known as entrapment by estoppel. And so you would be trying to fit a square peg in a round hole with an offhand comment that a politician said, unless the politician really, made a detailed statement saying
it was pretty detailed. There was a whole article all about it.
Well, fantastic. I think if it's I think that would be reasonable doubt for a jury.
Yeah.
I don't think, that could be a viable defense. I think the problem is, even if it worked once or twice, Bashir would probably issue a clarifying statement saying, "Oh, I didn't give people license to break the law. I can't be seen as doing that." He's a politician.
I mean, but he did like he knows that you can't travel across state lines. He's smart enough to know that. And he said,
I don't know what his exact language was. Like if he said you can purchase cannabis products outside Kentucky and bring it into Kentucky, no problem.
He did. Basically, well, yes.
And I had a client who got busted for, bringing stuff into Kentucky. I would absolutely point at that Bashir statement. I would call Bashir as a witness, and my case would probably get dismissed once, Bashir, my percipient witness, would move to quash the subpoena, and, he'd probably pull some strings and make it all go away.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Fair.
We tried that in my case, Omar. It didn't work out so well. Oh. You can try it, but the pretrial motions would probably clarify whether you get to do it or not. And in my case, they didn't, even though cops were telling me, "Oh, I'm doing a great job and all this stuff is wonderful and blah, 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 blah." It didn't go very far when the feds rolled in and put the handcuffs on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so many times, like the judge will be like, it doesn't quite fit every single technical, element of the defense, and you're missing one or two key ingredients, and therefore, no witness, no defense. That's what happened to Dale.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
exactly.
But I didn't take a plea. I said, "Fuck you, you're going to try my ass," and they did. Mm-hmm. I wanted to make them look. If you're going to throw a doctor and lawyer in prison for doing what we did, and you're going to do it in front of God and everybody and the television cameras and all that. But they didn't give a shit. They didn't care. They wanted to send the message out that, we will do this to you if you dare. And it didn't stop anything, right, Omar? Just
not at all. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It hastened the reform. I mean, if we look back at the, years when Dr. Fry and Dale were in the Sierra foothills doing revolutionary, the creator's work, really, that it was instrumental in having legalization across not just California, but across the whole country. It was very inspiring to people everywhere that people had that level of conviction in their cause that they were willing to go to prison. And, it was not just Dale and Molly. We also had Reverend Roger Christie in Hawaii and his wife Cher, and they also took their case to trial and said, "You know what? Let the jury hear." And what happened in both cases, and in all cases where people took their case to trial, like Brian Epps, is that the jury did not hear the whole truth. The whole truth, and nothing but the truth. They only heard a selective version, edited by the federal judge of the truth. And so that also hastened legalization when the public saw that the whole truth was not being told in court. That caused a big backlash in the court of public opinion.
Yeah, that did. Yeah, that did. Especially too, you know, with the Brian Epps trial, Omar, that you bring up, that picture of Brian Epps's daughter holding the sign that says, holding up the sign during the protest that says the DEA took my daddy away. I think it just speaks volumes to exactly what you're talking about. And we do want to thank Troy Lawrence with a big old super chat who says, where are they getting weed? July, it opened. What the hell? In regards with Ohio.
California.
I did answer that. They did dual use licensing, so the existing cultivators that were medical only were allowed to begin cultivation, but that's also why they said they were doing the prices so high, because they were worried about running out. And
they should worry about selling out and just getting rid of that boof. Just dump it.
You should go try it, Jason.
Just dump it.
Go shake some Buckeyes and smoke some Ohio weed.
Buckeyes, that's cute. That's cute.
You know?
And one other quick update, you guys. Ben LeBone threw in the chat, says breaking that Trump is going to hold a press conference in New Jersey tomorrow. And so that is going to be interesting. We'll make sure to cover that here on High at 9 News. I imagine that's when the press is going to come out and he's going to say that he is going to vote yes on Amendment 3 in Florida. But that's just my prediction, but we'll stand by and keep you guys posted.
What snack do you predict that Chris Christie will be eating during this press conference?
He likes Dunkin' Donuts, from my understanding.
All right.
In his white boots, right?
Oh, excuse me. It's actually Krispy Kremes, because we call them Krispy Kreme.
I bet he goes when the sign's on, so you know they're hot. It's a good time to go.
And Trump's going to legalize weed, right? That's his PR position.
He already did legalize weed with the Farm Bill. Just saying.
Yeah. You believe that? I got some swampland outside of Phoenix for you.
It's just, it is what it is. It is what it is. Millie, do we have another commercial? All right, we're going to go to this commercial. We're going to be right back.
All right, you guys. Well, we have just crossed the 4,000 subscriber threshold, and we want to thank all of you that have subscribed, but we need to do more. We need to get to 10,000 subscribers. And as a thank you to all of our subscribers, I am going to hook up a half a pound of cannabis. That's right, you guys. We are going to hook up a half a pound of cannabis to our subscribers. That's right. 8 of you will have the opportunity to receive 1 ounce of true classic OG if you are chosen. And if you're wondering how you can get your hands on one of these 8 ounces, all you have to do is subscribe to my YouTube channel. That's right, High at 9 News on YouTube. Make sure you hit that subscribe button as well as that notification bell when you do. And you could be enjoying an ounce of cannabis right here, or here, or here, or here, or here, or here, or maybe even right here in the studio with me. Make sure you hit that like button and share this post, because it may increase or not increase your chances of winning. You must be 21 years old or over, or be a valid California patient, 18 years and over, with a valid recommendation to win. Winners must redeem their prize here in the state of California at any one of the 28 Catalyst retail locations throughout California. Cloud Media is not responsible for any consequences that may occur as a result of consuming cannabis. Please smoke and consume responsibly. Remember, I'm Jason Beck, and I only smoke the best weed in the world. And if you want to smoke as good as I smoke, then you need to make sure that you're a winner in this competition.
Oh, are we back?
Yes, we're back.
All right, we're back. We're back. Yes, you guys, man. Here we go. That's right. This is Rico's story. I'm not sure where Rico is, but we'll probably see him tomorrow. But this, LA, you guys, more than $2.2 million in illegal cannabis products seized in Los Angeles toy district, you guys. Yes, that's right. California task force targeting illegal cannabis seized more than $2.2 million in cannabis packages. You need to leave. Yeah. Packages with forged state seal of the toy district downtown Los Angeles, the office of Governor Newsom announced on Tuesday. The state said a recent operation led by the governor's Unified Cannabis Enforcement Task Force investigated 11 stores, with many of them allegedly manufacturing and selling illicit packaging that authorities say are used to lure children. In a quote, illegal packaging is dangerous to consumers, especially when it is ripping off well-known brands that are attractive to children and needs to be removed from the marketplace, Department of Cannabis Control Director Nicole Elliott said in a statement. Legal marijuana products must be tested and met with health safety standards for consumption to have the state-sanctioned cannabis symbol on their packaging. Any business that is legally selling or storing the packaging must be licensed with the Department of Cannabis Control or have paperwork proving their transactions with legal cannabis businesses licensed by the state. The governor's Unified Cannabis Enforcement Task Force has seized nearly $500 million worth of illicit cannabis since 2022, in addition to eradicating 470,435 illegal cannabis plants, the state said, you guys. Well, I heard. And do we have a video to play on this, Millie?
Please no.
No? Okay, all right, sorry. We do not have the video to play for you guys, but nonetheless.
They went and got those cookies bags out of downtown LA, Jason.
Apparently so.
But that's where you get the gold money counters.
I heard they got a whole bunch of stuff out there, from what I heard. I've seen a couple different stories, and apparently this was targeting the packaging producers that produce all of the packaging. And I heard they got some printers and all kinds of other stuff.
Oh man, sticker traps.
Mm-hmm.
Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, as a brand in California, it's always been really annoying, and we always had to do different things with our packaging to make sure it couldn't be copied, but then you're probably sending it to a Chinese manufacturer who's probably going to copy it, sell it to them anyway, so it's just, we had to come up with the scan codes. We had to come up with all kinds of ways to be like, no, this really came from us. That Disty cart you got probably ain't it. So I don't know. I think it's interesting, but I think it's crazy they pulled a bunch of product out as well. Sounds like.
Exactly. Sounds crazy to me. Any thoughts on this, Omar? Dale?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is a novel approach going after the packaging sellers, because generally they'd be like, oh, that's protected by the First Amendment, or, there's nothing illegal in that. You can sell packaging. But now that they're really connecting the dots, I see, they're finally making an effort to figure it out. A lot of these enforcement actions continue to be no arrest. So it's just basically like, catch and release type of enforcement actions. And the deterrent effect of catch and release is minimal. And so until there's, but at the same time, do we need to put people into cages for cannabis related activity because our Prop 64 didn't fully legalize cannabis, and that's why there is such a thriving illicit market, the legacy market? I don't know. These are all very complicated questions, but I do think that it's a new approach, but to me it's more catch and release, whack-a-mole. It's ultimately ineffective.
Mm-hmm.
I've represented enough businesses to know that they're not making it easy on businesses in this state. And as Jenny said, you turn yourself into a pretzel to try and meet all these regulations where no other industry has to do this. And I don't like anybody marketing to children. I think that's a bad business model. Mm-hmm. But a lot of the people doing this are not in legitimate business. Okay, the businesses I represent, they want to know what is it they don't want to see. It's called marketing to children, and will not do that. But for people who are not in the industry, legal industry, I would say, that's not as big a concern for them, but it still is a problem. And I would just point out that until they take away all these restrictions, we're going to continue to see these games being played here. because this is just not an industry where you can come into it, get legitimate money, have legitimate business people come in and do it, and then not be screwed with by the regulators. It's just not there yet. We're still playing around with this. And a lot of it has to do with our local control here in California, where we have these areas where you can really be hard-ass about it, other places where they're not, and there's really not a lot of consistency. And of course, the black market or the trap market, it's just thriving because we're not making this easy enough for legitimate owners of these businesses to be able to make their nut and to thrive. So, you know, it's trap shop stuff.
Mm-hmm. Oh my God, is that Omar the Bigger Figueroa?
Yeah, good to see you, Rico.
Oh, Rico, welcome to work.
Yeah, welcome, Rico. Rico, we just went
welcome
over
to
your
work.
story. What do you think?
I've been working for like 4 hours now. East Coast time.
What do you think about this, Rico? This was your story that we just went over.
Okay, cool. No, I appreciate that. Yeah, my biggest takeaways from it, man. Twofold. Number one, I think it's very interesting how Gavin Newsom is leaning toward two things. You know, trying to get away from that limousine liberal look that he's been trying to shed that. So he's like with the whole like homeless encampment crackdown, and then now this Save the Children shit. I did want to tap into like these.
If we're live or not, I don't give a fuck.
We're gonna cut this off. I have no clue what the fuck happened.
Yeah, I mean, dude, every fucking thing that's happening.